Hi, welcome. I'm Liz Webb and I work for Coral Expeditions. I'm the International Sales Manager and I've been here for over 6 years. But what we want to talk to you today about is the Kimberley and the natural wonders of the Kimberley. I remember when I did my cruise, I wasn't really into rock formations or anything like this, but I'm joining the team and being able to get out on board the Coral Expeditions one. I was just amazed at the height and the rock formations and the depth of colours and everything. It was just so beautiful and so different. And you don't really know what it's about until you get to see it and explore yourself. Just a little bit about Coral Expeditions. We're an Australian-owned company and we have 3 small vessels that are able to get up close and personal to the shore experiences. Our vessels travel along the coastlines. We have our explorer tenders to be able to take all of our guests across to the shore to travel and look into the land side base of the Kimberley region or the other itineraries that we have. We're now in our 4th decade of exploring the Kimberley, but I'm not going to tell you all about the Kimberley. I'm going to ask Steve Cox, who is was one of our expedition leaders, to come and tell you about his time as being an expedition leader on board and taking all of our guests and showing the region. But now he's part of the product team and he wants to share that knowledge that he has gained on board the vessel with our product team to make sure the experience is just right. Welcome, Steve. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. As Liz said, I've been with the company for 12 years or so now, and 10 of those on board the ships. And all of that 10 years, plus a couple before that, in the Kimberley. So I have sort of built up a good base of knowledge there. It's a place that I don't think you ever can say that you know everything about that place. It's too big and it's too deep and it's too old to know everything. But I'm happy to share what knowledge that I do have, and I encourage people to come and see the Kimberley. It's one of the last outposts left on the planet that has this incredibly remote feel to it. And that's just because it's difficult to get to. You can't drive along the coastline, can't walk it. The best way to see it is by ship. And I think that great combination of beautiful ships and beautiful scenery and great history where you can get out, enjoy things and come back and have a very comfy room and a cold drink and beautiful meals and good hospitality and friends on board is definitely the way to see this particular area.
Oh, there's Steve now.
Oh, there's me. Look at that. So first of all, we're going to have a chat about some of the nature aspects of one of the great icons, which is Montgomery Reef, or Yawaja Bay, as what other people call it. This particular picture that you can see shows you how close it actually is to the mainland. So just in that top left-hand corner is Steep Island, and then just across from it is Raft Bluff and behind Raft Point, and that's Doubtful Bay following there. So, and in between that in the reef area is called Collier Bay, which is after George Collier, who was the head of the Royal Navy back when Philip Parker King named this Montgomery Reef after his ship surgeon who had been spared in a confrontation. And to make him feel better, he named this Montgomery Reef, but it's Yawaja Bay is the traditional name. And this is an offshore reef that is very tidal. So it appears in and out of the tide from about 4.2, 4.3 meters, dropping away. This reef system that you can see here appears out of the water, and there's a natural channel that separates 2 reef platforms. And back in the old days, before water levels where they are now, you would have been able to walk. It would have been like a valley with with high sides, high cliff sides on it. And it's actually a mesa platform, so flat top rocks, which you do see a lot in the Kimberley. So that's what that was. And this reef system has grown over the top of this mesa platform. And it's just a perfect storm that nature was able to create this particular system. You won't see it anywhere else in the world. There are small other offshore reef systems. There's one off Madagascar, for instance, but this is unique. And I've seen it lots of times, and every time it still just is one of the greatest marine things that you'll ever see. And, you know, forget about what's in your mind about the Great Barrier Reef. I think when you come and look at the nature side of things here, you can see in that picture that you can get out in the Zodiacs or stay on board the Explorer, and we head from the ship. It's a very short journey up into this channel, and if you get out and get into the Zodiacs in particular, you can see how close the guys can get you right up to the edge of this reef system. And as the tide drops away, I'm going to say that's probably at about 2 meters there. It can drop away a lot more, and you'll see all this other reef system become exposed. And then as the tide ebbs and then floods back in, it fills over the top. And then if you've got a spring tide, which could be 9 or 10 meters here, it's gone, it's covered over. And the only thing that you'll see is the Montgomery Islands in the middle. And the Montgomery Islands in the middle, it's not a holiday resort there. It's a hostile environment. It's hot. I've actually once been out onto those particular islands. There was a really big crocodile out there. And it's the locals on the right tide, and the Indigenous people can actually go right into the islands on the right tide from there. But you've got to start from the other side of the reef. So the reef's, it's about 300-400 square kilometers. It's huge. Up close, now looking at that, I know it looks moonscapey, doesn't it? But as you get up close on the Zodiacs or on the Explorer, you'll see that what it is exquisite small coral systems. And as I always say to people when they come here, if you're looking to see big corals like on the Great Barrier Reef, you're not going to see them. There's bigger corals where under the water that doesn't come out of the water. But if you're part of the coral system that has to come out of the water twice a day, get baked by sun, survive a wet season, you've got to be small and you've got to be tough. So that's the type of corals that have developed over time to survive in this hostile environment. And when you get close, you'll see that there's bright reds and pinks and greens and yellows and all these different colors that you've got to get up close to see it. Only way, you can look at all the videos you want or pictures of Yawajabai, but the only way to appreciate it is to come on a trip and get in the Explorer and in the Zodiac, come and have a look at it.
It is definitely Mother Nature at its best, isn't it? The whole aspects of it, from the tides, from the corals, from what's the life and being able to survive out in such a hardy, remote area.
Exactly, and a lot of seabirds come out to feed. So as soon as the tide comes out, all the birds will fly from the nearby islands or the mainland because they know that it's like Coles supermarket for them. It's as long as the tide's out, there's all these huge pools of water, and the birds just eat as much as they can and then go and have sleep. A bit like us. Further down, and this is Talbot Bay and the horizontal waterfalls. And it's either one of probably the second thing you do coming out of the room, or it's the second to last thing you do if you're coming from the Darwin direction. But either way, you're going to get to see beautiful Talbot Bay. And just before we do talk about the horizontal waterfalls, that geologically, I think it's the most amazing place to look at during this Kimberley trip. And here and a bit down towards Nares Point and the Iron Islands, you get this real buckling and folding and twisting of the rocks, where they've actually been tipped from vertical to horizontal. So there's all sorts of different angles on the rock formations here. And to give you an example of how incredible the rock formations are here, a trip I did a few years ago, I had one of the very top geologists from Stanford University on board, and he had not seen this place before, and he had no words to describe what he was looking at apart from dribbling. But for somebody who's seen all these incredible rock formations around the world, he was kind of speechless about what he was looking at, because it is so incredible to see. And we will head up a place called Cyclone Creek, where you get so close to looking at this incredible buckling and folding and twisting of the rock formations that's occurred. Also here, the place where most people come to Talbot Bay is to view or go through what they call the horizontal waterfalls, and that was a name that's very late in the piece. It was David Attenborough penned it when he was there making a documentary on it, and I'm not sure how he came up with that name, but he also described it as one of the wonders of the world. And he doesn't say that often about things, let me tell you. And he said the same when he was out at Montgomery Reef as well, that, what an incredible place it is. So here, what we are able to do is offer you the opportunity to take the Zodiacs through the first gap. You can see the guys here on board Zodiac with guests and one of our coxswains taking the Zodiac through the first gap, and they can take you up towards the second gap. But never do we go through that second gap. The second gap is half the size of the first gap, with the same amount of water trying to come through at the same speed. So it's amazing to look at on the spring tide, but you wouldn't want to be trying to go through there. So that's what happens. From the ship, the Zodiac will take you across, and the guys will, who are all very experienced at taking Zodiacs through these gaps. They do it carefully, they do it safely, but it's also a bit of fun. So just to reiterate there, that a very, very careful plan is done beforehand by the master, the chief officer, the expedition team, and the drivers before anything ever takes place. And we've got 20 odd years of experience of knowing how things work there. So we do it exactly the right time where it's safe, but still a little bit of fun. And I think that's important, that everybody knows, that a lot of experience goes into that, and you'll have an incredibly fun time going through there. And once you're through the gap, the guys will let you take your cameras out and take some pictures, and then put them away as you come back through again.
Beautiful.
So Mitchell Falls. Now, people sometimes used to say to me, "Can we take the ship up to the Mitchell Falls?" The answer is no. I wish we could. It would be great. You can go some of the way actually up the river, and I have on a previous expedition separately taken a boat right up to the lower Mitchell Falls, but you can't go any further because there's the lower Mitchell Falls that stops you unless you can unfold your boat into a plane and fly up there. That's as far as you can go. But how do you get up here? Well, as part of the expedition adventure, you can purchase a seat on the helicopter to take you from one of 3 beaches that are assigned as landing zones. So that's Swift Bay, Winyalkin, and Naturalist Island are the 3 beaches that are approved for helicopters to land and take off. They're all about the same distance, which is a 20-minute flight from the beach to the Mitchell Falls. And you have 2 options. You can land where they drop you off and one of our expedition team will be there to guide you around, and you can spend an hour at the falls. So it's a very easy place once you land. It's big, flat, wide rocks to walk on mostly. So it's quite easy and it's about 10 minutes to get from the landing area to the lookout with the falls, where you can take. So you're not down at the bottom, you can't climb down the bottom, but you're looking at it basically from the top. So you're looking down, but you get a very clear view of the falls that you can take really great photos of. This is the largest tiered falls in Western Australia. It's about 80 metres in total. But King George River is the highest single falls, and these are the highest tiered falls. So the only way you can get to see it, and I encourage people to do it while you're there, is to take up an offer of purchasing a seat and taking a flight up to Mitchell Falls. Now, King George River. It's either the first thing you do coming out of Darwin, or it's the last thing you do if you're doing Broome to Darwin. This is after a decent wet season. So April and May, you're going to get these bigger amounts of water pouring off from the wet season, where it's built up in the catchment areas, up in the Drysdale areas, and then pumping down. This is a twin falls. There's a left and a right. And this is the left-hand one, which is the major falls. And if you follow that contour just on the right of the picture, in the next bay, you'd see the second fall, which dries up very quickly. This one tends to go longer, but the longer you go in the season, the less water appears in these falls. It's just how it is. They're not spring fed, so they're just fed by a wet season mostly. So they do dry up. So well, I guess what I'm saying is if it's something that's really important for you to see, you need to be thinking about April and May. Later on, as the water dissipates, what you do get to see is the incredible rock formations around there. And you start to see things like little water monitors and little, in particular, little Mertens water monitors start appearing on the rocks. And as it calms down, you'll see lots of fish in the water. There's crocs in this river. There's two resident crocs there. One has the lower part of the river, and the big guy is up by the falls, right? So it's obviously better scenery, right? So, and I've seen the croc there with him. He's having a shower under the fresh water.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's nice view if you're a croc to wake up to every day, isn't it? So there's two distinct seasons, I think, about the King George River, and both of them are amazing.
Oh, good. I was just about to ask that, because many people do say, when's the best time to go?
Yeah.
You've got your wet season, the waterfall season, then you've got your peak season because of the climate and the temperature, but all the bird life, the marine life and everything has been coming out. But then at the end, it's your whales.
That's
and
right.
You do
whale
season. And everything in the whale season. So
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So, and part of what you see at the King George River is this, a popular term amongst geologists, honeycombing, and that is, you see it particularly. It occurs on points, the lower parts of the rock faces down near the water level. And most of it is caused during the wet season, when there's probably another 1.5 meters of fresh water pouring out at high speed and pumping out into Talbot Bay. And this sandstone, which is called Wharton sandstone, is extremely soft. You can scratch it with your thumbnail. That's how soft it is. And it erodes very quickly. And stronger parts of the rock stay and the weaker parts disappear. And you end up with this effect, which is called Tophoney, is the proper name for it, Tophoney.
I'll remember honeycomb.
You remember honeycomb, but you can amaze everybody by saying Tophoney when you get out there. But and the guy on the way up, where we do the slow cruise up before we get to the falls, the guys will take you up super close in either the Explorer or the Zodiacs, and you'll be able to get right up, 1 meter away from having a look, and you can take incredible photos. The close-up photos of this Tophoney is it looks really amazing. It won't amaze your neighbours, but it'll amaze you when you go back and you're looking at your photos, because other people haven't been, until you've been there, you're looking at a photo of rocks like, wow, it's not so interesting. But
that's what I found so amazing about it. Oh, it's opened up my mind.
When you're there, it will open up your mind and you start thinking about geology that's so very old. This is probably one of the most photographed rock areas in the Kimberley, and this is at a place called Nares Point. More specifically, it's in Yampi Sound, Yampi referencing deep, and it's right next to Coolin Island. So Coolin Island is an island that has currently has a mine operating on it, the Gibson mine. They've got about, I think, 3 or 4 years left on their lease. They're taking out high-grade iron ore. But just across from that is this beautiful area. And this is earlier I talked about those examples of twisting, buckling, and folding. You can see it perfectly here where these rocks have been heated and then cooled, and they're forming this perfect semicircle that's left. Remember, the top of it's gone. So, and particularly you can see where the guys have lined up the Explorer so that you can look straight down like a cannon, looking down a cannon. And you can get these really incredible photos of these amazing twisting, buckling, and folding of the rocks. And there's no other place. It's here in Talbot Bay where it's the best places to see and to photograph. And here you can actually go ashore at Nares Beach, which is very close, and stand right next to it. These incredibly old rocks that have been turned over.
I love my photos of the rocks and everything. I was showing my friends. They were like, what? What? And I said, but look at it. Look what Mother Nature has done.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Steve, thank you very much for taking us through the nature base of the Kimberley, going through. A little tip from Steve and from even being on board, make sure you have sturdy walking shoes for your shore excursions, because you are really going to want to get around and get up close to what the expedition team is showing you and taking it all forward. But if you'd like to join us, we're going to be having some more webinars. Next week, we're going to be talking about the culture in the Kimberley, again with Steve, so thank you very much. And then we have a live webinar where you can ask us some questions and answers with our expedition leader, Dawn Singleton, on the schedule for the 26th of April. But thanks for joining us, and see you next week.